Okay, so for part two of today's lesson, we're going to focus on our vocabulary words for lesson 12. The first vocabulary word we're talking about today is dialect, which is actually a word that we spoke about in class, if you guys remember, before we stopped going to school physically. But let's listen to this passage and hear the word dialect, and then we'll talk a little bit about what it might mean.
Chin usually enjoys the view. Tonight, he only wants the cable car to go faster. Chin and his father say goodbye to the cable car crew and get off in Chinatown. It is so much bigger than his village in China. There are around 10,000 Chinese who live here, but not all of them speak the same dialect as he does. Though they come from China, he cannot always understand them.
Okay, so when we talk about dialect, we see it's a particular form of language which is peculiar to a specific region or social group. So, really, when we talk about dialect, you could say, for example, like in Chin's case, all of these people are Chinese and they speak some form of Chinese, but some of them have a different dialect of that than others. So, you might say someone in I don't know, even people in America might speak a different dialect of English than you might speak. And then our second word comes from this page here. Our second word is precious. So let's listen to this first column here.
The sandal maker tended to his plants as lovingly as he always had, but his holly tree grew weak in the shade. His tiny bonsai trees stopped bearing fruit. The breezes that once blew gently in Asakusa now whipped around the tall building. The breezes turned into gusts of wind that lifted the sandalmaker's wife's skirts when she went outside. The wind tore up her umbrella when it rained. The wind grew so fierce, it spun the dust and dirt into swirling tornadoes, and it even uprooted the sandalmaker's precious plants.
Precious plants. So precious, obviously, here is an adjective, excuse me, because it's describing the plants. So we'll highlight that word. And we'll look over here and see precious. It says of an object, substance, or resource. So it's describing one of these things. Of great value and not to be wasted or treated carelessly. So when something's precious, it's not something that you would just throw away. It means a lot to you, and it's an adjective. So you might say, Jonas is very precious to me, or I have a very precious necklace at home from my grandmother. Something like that, used to describe.